Over the past few weeks, Reverend Civil, our new minister, has been leading us in very inspiring presentations. This week, we are expecting no less from him. And we continue to pray that his inspired presentation may lead us to a deeper relationship with God. So my brothers and sisters, without further delay, it is my pleasure to introduce to you, or to invite instead of introducing to you, we have already introduced it, to invite our minister, Reverend Lambe Civil, to make his presentation. Reverend Civil, over to you.
Thank you so much, Brother Jolly. Good night, my sisters and brothers. It is a joy to have you again for another night of Bible study as we seek to dive into the Word of God and find space for us to connect with what God is doing and saying in this time and this season. So I want to warmly welcome you to this Bible study and pray as well as trust that you are going to have a wonderful time as we interact, as we engage, and as we go very deep into what the scriptures say concerning the topic before us tonight. For the past 3 weeks, we have been talking about the spirit, the soul, and the body. Last week, we spoke about the body and how significant the body is to the other two facets of our existence, which is the spirit and the soul. And tonight, we want to continue from where we left last week, talking about stewardship of the body, especially in this pandemic. And I'm sure we all know how important it is for us to have a strong immune system, for our immunity to be at a place where it can easily fight whatever illnesses that come our way. We are at a place where all of us know how important it is for us to be in good health, so that when other things strike, we can still find our way to overcome that. So we are talking about stewardship of the body today. And it is my hope and prayer that we will find this presentation meaningful. And as usual, what we are going to do is that at the end of the presentation, we are going to open up for all of us to engage, ask comments, ask questions, make comments, and all those other things we need to do. All right, so there we are. I want to begin by mentioning that the body is an integral part of our existence. And how we take care of the body has a great impact in terms of how we connect with the other facets of our existence. I want to also say that we cannot talk about stewardship of time. We cannot talk about stewardship of talents. We cannot talk about stewardship of possessions without talking about stewardship of the body. And that is very, very important for tonight's conversation. I'm calling it a conversation because at some point, we will be able to require that all the participants will be able to come on board and be able to engage this discussion. So what I'm trying to say from the beginning is that without the body, there is not going to be stewardship of time. Without the body, there is not going to be stewardship of talents. Without the body, there is going to be no stewardship of possessions. So we need the body for us to manage time, for us to manage our talents, for us to manage our possessions. And it must be very clear from the beginning for us to remember that without a body, it means that we are not in existence. Because once the body ceases to function, it means that we are dead and there is no life at all. Now, what is stewardship about? Stewardship is management of something on behalf of someone else. The owner of what is being managed on his or her behalf simply delegates responsibilities of care into other people's hands. What does this mean? This means, therefore, that stewardship, a steward never attains the rights of ownership. So as long as you're a steward, you cannot claim ownership of what you are managing on behalf of another person. So this is great. It is significant that we understand this right from the beginning. The steward is responsible to the owner and is expected to give an account. So this is the whole framework of stewardship, that when you are managing something on behalf of another person, definitely what you are managing is not yours. It belongs to the person on whose behalf you are managing whatever is being managed. But also, you are, as a steward, accountable to the owner of what you are managing. So in this case, it is important for us to appreciate that our bodies belong to God, and we have delegated responsibility of managing these bodies on behalf of God. God is the one who gave us these bodies. We have delegated responsibility. In turn, God expects you and me to manage these bodies in a manner that is acceptable to him. Now, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31 says, so whatever you eat or drink, or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Anything we eat, anything we drink, anything we do, it must be done to the honor and glory of God. So before you pick any food to eat, you must be able to ask the question, is this food good for my body? Is this food going to glorify God? Before you pick any drink, the question should be asked, is this drink good for my body? Is this drink going to glorify God at the end of the day? Now, in our stewardship of the body, it is important for us to understand that whatever we take in the inside of our bodies in form of food, in form of drink, has an impact to the body. What we eat and what we drink has an impact to our health. Not every food is good for our bodies. Not every drink is good for our bodies. So God is saying to us in 1 Corinthians that whatever we eat, before we even eat it, before we even touch it, the question must be asked, how is this going to help my body? How is this going to help me glorify God? How is this going to help me honor God? How is this going to help me connect with God? How is this going to help me be a good steward of this body that God has given me? It is important to do that. Now, some of the biblical truths is what is before us. And at this point, what I want to do is that I want to ask anyone who can read for us Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 from the King James Version. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 from the King James Version. Someone could read for us. Just raise your hand and then we'll be able to unmute you for you to read. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. All right. We can unmute I saw a hand. Someone wanted to read? Yana, you wanted to read? All right. Denise. Go ahead, Denise. You can unmute yourself. Denise? Is there anyone else who is willing to read from the King James Version? Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. All right, go ahead. Catherine, go ahead and unmute.
That Catherine Beecher.
Okay. There we go. A while ago, it was not responding. All right. So Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. And it says, "And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul."
Wonderful. Now that is very, very important. We want to begin from that page. We want us to understand that God formed man out of the dust of the ground, and God breathed into that lifeless body, which was made out of the ground. And that breath which God deposited in that lifeless body is what we've been referring to as the spirit. And the combination of the body, which was lifeless at that point, and this breath of life, which is the spirit, gave a product called the soul. So man became a living soul. So that lifeless body, which was made out of the ground, dust of the ground, could not move, could not do anything, could not talk until that breath was put in the inside of that body. Then that body was able to move and talk. Now, as we begin this journey of the body, there are certain facts that I want us to set very straight. The first thing is that the body was the first gift God gave to a human being. So before the breath, God gave you and me the body, because God understood the importance of the body before everything else. So God had to give us the body first before he breathed into us the breath of life, because the body needed to house the breath of life. God gave man the body before he gave him work to do. So before God even told Adam that he needed to take care of the Garden of Eden, the first thing that God gave him was the body. So the body came first before work. This then, my friends, means that we should not value work at the expense of our bodies. Because for us to work, we need our bodies. Without our bodies, we cannot work. And also we need to know that there will be no service to God and no service to each other without the body. So without the body, we can't save God. Without the body, we can't save each other. There is no stewardship, and I'm repeating this, there's no stewardship of talents, there is no stewardship of time, there's no stewardship of possessions without the body. Now, one thing about it is that from the beginning, God wanted us to live in good health forever. That was the plan of God. That was the design of God, that you and me should live in good health forever. And remember that in Genesis chapter 1, verse 31, we are reminded that everything God created was very good. It means that at the point of creation, even our bodies were very good. So God gave us very good bodies. That is very, very important for us to understand. God gave us perfect bodies because God wanted us to live healthy lives forever. The challenges of the body came in as a result of sin. Our bodies became vulnerable as a result of sin. Now, this is another reality that we should appreciate. After the fall of humanity, God still became the great physician. You see how loving God is? Even after we had failed him, he still provided us with an opportunity to engage with him, an opportunity for him to reach out to us. Exodus 15 verse 26, we are reminded, and God said, if you will diligently listen to the voice of the Lord your God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases on you, which I have brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that heals you. So even after humanity had wandered away from the presence of God, God still made a commitment to the children of Israel that I have committed myself to ensure that if you try your level best to maintain a strong relationship with me, I am going to deliver you. I'm going to heal you from all these diseases that have befallen the Egyptians. So God is still the physician of those who rely on him. But we also know that Jesus did not just preach the gospel, he also healed the sick because he understood the importance of people being in good health. Jesus himself wanted people to be in good health. So we see that many times he engaged into this aspect of touching lives, healing people, delivering them from illnesses and all that caused challenges in the health of his people. Now, I want to straight away talk about preventive health. And I think we know the saying that prevention is better than cure. If we can avoid certain things, I think it is important for us to avoid that. And the scriptures remind us to do that. And we know very well that there are a lot of illnesses that humanity is grappling with today, which can be avoided if we chose to lead healthy lives. If we chose to eat health, if we chose to drink health, if we chose health practices and health living, a lot of these lifestyle illnesses that we grapple with can be sorted out. So even before we begin talking about medication, we have to talk about the need to manage our health, because management of our health is our responsibility. It is your responsibility. It is my responsibility. And God is going to hold us accountable concerning how we manage these bodies. Proverbs chapter 27 verse 12 tells us that the prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. Wisdom, my friends, is to know the danger of mismanaging our bodies, is to know the danger of indulging in things that are in turn going to bring a sense of degradation in our health, and avoid those things. So do not do things that you know very well that they are not good for your health and your health. And we are going to make some suggestions as we go along the way. 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 8 says, physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in this life and in the life to come. Now, what we are getting from this portion of scripture is the mention for physical training. That every individual human being has to value the aspect of physical training. It is good for you. It is good for me. That is what we are being told. Though physical health is not the whole spectrum of being health, we have to seek divine things. But also, my friends, it is important for us to know that being physically fit is a biblical concept. It is good for your body. It is good for my body. Leading lives that are active, finding ways and means of keeping fit and working on our bodies and ensuring that our bodies are active and well is a biblical principle. It is one of the ways to manage our bodies. Proverbs 17 verse 22 reminds us that a cheerful heart is good medicine. A happy heart is good medicine. But a crushed spirit dries up the bones. And this is why it is important, my friends, to know that stress is not good for you. It is not good for me. It is not good for anybody else. And we all know that science itself has proved that stress actually is a vehicle through which many illnesses get into our space. Management of stress is part of our stewardship. The question is that, how do you manage stressful moments in your life? What do you do when you are stressed? Because if you don't manage stress, if you allow stress to manage you, at the end of the day, is that you and me are going to pay heavily. And I want to say to us that anything that stresses you is not worth dying for. And I want to say here, there is nothing on planet Earth that is worth dying for. Nothing. Because the truth of the matter is that if you die for that thing, it means that you can't save it anymore. I said last week that if you think that you need to die for your job, you should remember that when you die, someone else is going to take over that job. It is as simple as that. Stress is one of the leading causes of illnesses and death. And we are going to suggest some of the ways as we go down on how we can manage stress. Proverbs 14 verse 16 tells us, a wise man suspects danger and cautiously avoids evil, but the fool is arrogant and careless. When you are suspecting danger coming your way, it is just wise to change the course of action. My friends, the truth is this. All of us at this stage, we must be able to know and understand our bodies. Because one thing about life is that none of us is able to change the body. So the same body that we had at birth is the same body that we still have today. And one good thing about our bodies is that our bodies speak. When your body is speaking, how good are you at listening? Because our bodies are different. My body functions different from another person's body. When your body is speaking, and those of us who drive, we know that there is nothing as dangerous as driving a car you do not understand. And there is nothing as important as understanding the car that you are driving on the road. The relationship between a driver and the car that is being driven is a critical component to the safety on the road, because the cars are not the same. And our bodies operate in the same way. Your body speaks. And when your body begins to send indicators, you need to begin to address those indicators as quickly as possible. And we are going to talk about those indicators as we go down the road. But the question is that the body speaks to us, and when the body is speaking, what do you do? So we've spoken about the need to prevent illness, and that many of the illnesses that end up coming into our space can be avoided. That is just a reality. Not everything, but quite a good number of our illnesses can be avoided and can be managed much better. Now, if we go to a point where we require medicine, we call it curative health. Now, people need to understand that there's nothing demonic about medicine. And I know that this is going to be a rough and very interesting, but also something that should be able to trigger reaction, because I know that there are some people who don't believe in taking medication. People who think that prayer, as long as I'm praying, I do not need to adhere to what the doctor is telling me. And I want to say that God has used our doctors and our physicians, not just now, but for a long time. Even in the Old Testament, God indicated, and the scriptures remind us that there are many people who actually used curative methods to be able to attain good and sound health. Leaves have been reflected on in the Old Testament as having been used for healing. Ezekiel chapter 47 verse 12 tells us, on the banks, on both sides of the river, they will grow all kinds of trees for food. Their leaves will not wither, nor their fruit fail, but they will bear fruit, fresh fruit every month, because the water for them flows from the sanctuary. Their fruit will be for food, and their leaves for healing. Other versions say their leaves for medicine. So God, in his wisdom, he has actually designated certain leaves and herbs for healing. Meaning that our use of the natural resources that God has given us and lavished us with can be able to sustain our health. Isaiah 38 verse 27 says, for Isaiah had said, let them take a lump of figs and lay it for a plaster on the boil, and it shall recover. We are told that these are things that our forefathers used, and they are recorded in scripture to be able to provide healing, to be able to provide cure for the diseases that people went through. So here is Isaiah the prophet, who is not saying the boil is going to be sorted out by prayer. Isaiah the prophet, the anointed man of God, is reminding this person with a boil that there are fig leaves that you can use and be able to get healed from your impediment. That is curative health. John chapter 9 verse 6. We are reminded, and the Bible says, having said this, he spit on the ground, made some mud from the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes, and we are told that the man was able to see. Now, can you, I don't know whether you've ever looked at this text like that. Jesus demonstrates on the power of the things that we are able to see with our hands, and that we can use prayer to anoint the physical things, and they can be used as medicine. Luke 10:34 tells us, so he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. And he set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. We know about the parable of the Samaritan, the Good Samaritan. This is something that we all know very well. And what we are told about this is the need to be able to do what is required at the time it is required. And that not all things require prayer. Many things require practical indulgence, practical engagement. So what needs to be bandaged when you need surgery? Surgery could be a way to be able to continue to live. Surgeries have proved to have prolonged people's lives. There is nothing sinful about that, nothing at all. So what needs practice? Let us practice it and not just take everything in a way that is not helpful. Revelation chapter 22 verse 2 reminds us that in the midst of the street of it and on either side of the river was there the tree of life, which bore 12 manner of fruits and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. Again and again, we are using this. That the tree was used, the leaves of the tree were used as curative health, were used as medicine. And I'm trying to address something today and tonight because there are many of us who think that taking medication is not biblical. And maybe an argument may be there to say, are all medication made out of leaves? Leaves in this case are being used as a figurative statement. But we are saying, can we use what God has given us to come up with something that is able to address our ill health? God has lavished us with so much, and if we can utilize what God has lavished us with, including our creative minds, including our ability to think, including our competences to think outside the body, if those are able to put us in good health, let us go for it. There are some people always say, no man, it doesn't matter what the doctor is telling me. What matters is that I'm going to pray because I don't need to take any medication. I'm not saying that prayer is not important, but sometimes we need to be practical about it. We know that science has been an answer to human existence for a long time. And I think it is very unwise for us to die when there's an alternative to our health. If there's an alternative to your health, if medication can help you live for 10, 20, 15, 30 years, why not go for it? Can you imagine how much more you can achieve in 10 years? Can you imagine how much more you can achieve in 15, 20, 30 years? Your children need you. Your spouse needs you. If you can be with your spouse for 5, 10, 20, 15 years, why not go for it? We've seen people who've survived on medication for over 40 years. HIV and AIDS was almost like suicide just a while ago. When people tested positive for HIV and AIDS, the next thing they were thinking about was death. But antiretroviral drugs have provided an opportunity, and we've seen people who've lived, I know of a person myself who has lived on ARVs for over 40 years. 40 years is a long time. You can achieve so much. So why do you want to die before your time? And sometimes, even if it's not for our sake, we must do it for the sake of those whose lives are directly linked to us. Imagine if your child is 10 years and you live 20 years more, your child will be 30 years and independent. There's someone who needs you. The church needs you. We want you to live. Let's learn to make wise decisions and choices in life. Now, in case there are people who don't think that having a physician in your life is important, Joseph himself had a physician in his life. Those of us who don't think that it is important to go and do medical checkups, here is the text. Genesis chapter 50 verse 2 tells us that when Joseph directed the physicians in his service to embalm his father Israel. So the physicians embalmed him. So Joseph had doctors. Joseph always consulted. And remember that this is the greatest dreamer. The guy who was connected to God. God spoke to this man. And yet, Joseph understood the importance of having his own physicians. He understood the need of having personal doctors in his life who attended to him. There's a possibility then that Joseph could have had illnesses that required the doctors to attend to him as much as he was so connected to God. If Joseph needed a doctor, do you think you and me do not need our doctors? What makes you think that going for a medical checkup is not a spiritual activity? Jeremiah 51 verse 8 says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. This is also curative. Use something that is there, something that you know, something that you are exposed to, and use it to save your life. If you have an illness that the doctors can help you to resolve, why not go for it? My friends, I want to submit tonight that we should be good stewards of our bodies in order for our bodies to save us well. If we don't take very good care of our bodies will not be in a position to save us well. I'm saying it again. When your body is speaking, you and me should listen. One of the ways, again, we are emphasizing this point, and I said it last week, that actually food, the food we eat, is killing more people than the gun, the machete, and the knife. Watch what you put on your plate. And I want to suggest to my family that it is important for every family to have pots and pans and plates and spoons and all these things. We need to have a functioning kitchen in our homes. We all know the challenge of fast foods. And if our lives are dependent on fast foods, we know the consequences in the long term. Not everything that tastes good is good for your body. Food, my brothers and sisters, is the #1 killer in the whole world. And if we have poor eating habits, and also it's not just about what we eat, is how we eat what we eat. Because not eating on time is also another danger to our health. There are some of us who think that eating is secondary to my life. I have to work, and think about eating at last. It's when we eat and how we eat, all these things matter. We all know the importance of vegetables. We all know the importance of fruits. We all know the challenges of taking too much carbohydrates. We all know these things. When you take too much starch, starch has a way, and I never knew this. I thought at some point that actually meat can make you get too much weight, but I came to realize that starch actually has a way of compounding your weight, and it is a danger to your weight. Sugar is another thing. Salt is another thing. So we are talking about eating in moderation. You don't need anyone to lay hands on you. You don't need anyone to anoint you to do these things. How often do you exercise? Because we are told that exercises actually help us to manage most of the non-communicable diseases. So even before we go to that stage, even before we begin to notice whether or not we have diabetes or we have high blood pressure or these other things, cardiac issues, before we even go to that place, these things can be avoided, and proof is there. And I've always told people this: if you can manage a hospital bed, you can manage to exercise. Because remember that if you don't take good care of your body is going to break down one day and you will not be able to do what you do. Exercise is important. How often do you walk? Just walking. And I want to say here is that after this presentation, I want all of us to go and try just 2 press-ups or 3 press-ups. I'm not going to ask you 20, 30, 40 press-ups after this. If you can't lift your own body, you are in bad shape. If you can't lift your own body 5 times from the ground up, you are in bad shape. And you need to do something about it. We are living at a time where lack of sleep is also bringing a lot of health complications. We all know that nights were meant for sleep, and that it is just right and in order for you as an adult to have not less than 6 hours of sleep. So if you are denying yourself sleep, in the long run, you are going to pay heavily for it. When your body is telling you to sleep,
Rev.
and that it is just right and in order for you as an
Kim?
if you are denying yourself. All right, let me finish the presentation and then we can come back to that. Is that fine? So those with questions, please let me finish the presentation and then we can come and ask those questions and make comments. So when your body is telling you to sleep, sleep. It is important to listen to your body. If you are feeling tired, your body is telling you that you are tired, please rest. It is as important as that. If you are feeling tired, rest. Take some rest. Work should not kill you. Take some rest. It is good for you. It is good for me. It is good for all of us. Take some rest. It is important. Don't wait until your body breaks down for you to rest. If you are feeling sick, go and see the doctor. It is part of stewardship of our bodies. And actually, none of us should be too busy to do medical checkups. You should not only see the doctor when you are sick. Actually, it is important to see the doctor even before you recognize any illness in your body. And we all know that all illnesses can easily be managed if they are detected early. Someone told me that the best birthday gift you should ever give yourself is that if you forget to do this the whole year, on your birthday, go and do a comprehensive medical checkup. So instead of going to all these places to go and eat all this food, give yourself a gift on that day, and that gift is go and check the functionality of your body, because you need your body. Emotional health is another very, very tricky aspect of our lives. Psychological health is another thing that is bringing a lot of challenges to our lives. My friends, if you are grappling with an issue, find someone to talk to. When you feel overwhelmed, find someone to confide in. Talk to someone. Find a confidant somewhere to share. And we know that COVID has actually compounded this thing. We have more cases of mental health. Maybe we didn't just know about these things, or the stressing moments in which we are have compounded the whole thing. Don't keep anything to yourself. Find someone to share with. Talk to someone. Talk to your pastor. Talk to your elder if you can. And find a professional counselor, of course, to someone. Find a friend that you can confide. Find someone to talk about it. Anything that is giving you sleepless nights is not good for your health. If you don't address it, it will eventually become a challenge to your health. Watch your weight. Weight is not a good thing, and we all know that, unfortunately, in Jamaica, over 50% of our population are overweight. And that is part of the explanation why we have so many non-communicable illnesses. Check your weight. Control your weight. You don't need prayer to control your weight. You don't need heaven to come down in order for you to control your weight. Control your weight. Be in good shape. It is good for you. It is good for everybody else. It is good for service to God and service to one another. My sisters and brothers, God wants us to be in good health. And remember that God has entrusted us with these bodies so that we can be able to take very good care of these bodies. What are you doing to take care of your body? What are you doing to take care of your body? Are you a good steward of your body? You need that body. I need my body. We need you. Remember that you can't even do praise and worship if your body is not in good shape. When you are sick, you can't preach, you know. When you are sick, you can't sing in church. There will be no praise and worship for you to do if your body is not well managed. So let's take care of our bodies. And remember, my friends, that they are preventive measures, but they are also curative measures. Taking medication, there is nothing demonic about it. If the doctor has prescribed medication for you, take it. And I want to close this session for comments and just for us to have an interaction. The other point I want to say is that I strongly believe that prayer can heal people. I strongly believe. But before you stop medication, when you go to anyone for prayer, go to your doctor, let your doctor confirm that you're healed. It is just wise to do that. It is just wise to do that. We need you. Your family needs you. Your spouse needs you. Those around you need you. We value you. We love you. And remember that it will become very, very difficult for you to love others without loving your own body and loving yourself. Let me pause here for comments, for questions, for observations. Let's just talk. Remember that you can easily unmute and just raise your hand. We are going to acknowledge you, and then you can speak.
Any questions?
"73 of us are here. Let's talk. Questions, comments?
Kim? Yes, Kim? Any
Hi,
questions?
hi, Rev. I was saying earlier when you said, when you were talking about the push-ups, boy, that is a steep one. I don't think I could even do that. You're probably stronger than I am.
And I only suggested 3 push-ups. Or even 2, or even 1. But the point I'm making is that if you can't lift your own body, something must be done differently.
Okay,
It's
Rev.
just 1 push-up. You don't need to do 10. And you know, you start from somewhere and get somewhere. And many of you can testify, those of you who do push-ups, as simple as it may be, push-ups are very good for you. And remember that there are postures for push-ups for men and for women. And these are things that you can easily find on YouTube. Do 10 push-ups in the morning. For the men who are here, start with 5, 10, 20. If you can do 30 every morning and 30 every evening, you are good. I do 40 in the morning and I do 40 in the evening. I didn't start with 40, I started with 2. 2, 3, 4, 5. Because we want you to be in good shape, and God wants you to be in good shape. When I went to my doctor, just before I came to Meadowbrook, end of August. And my doctor told me that in 4 years, I'd only gained 1 pound. And my doctor asked me, "What do you do?" And I said, "Nothing, doc." He told me in 4 years, I'd gained 1 pound. In 4 years. And my doctor, each time I go to the doctor and they check my pressure, they ask me how old I am. And can you believe that there are some people who still think that I'm in my 20s? I'm not in my 20s. I'm an old man. You don't need to ask me how old I am. But the truth of the matter, I've seen the benefits of trying to work on your body. And this is why for 2022, we are making a commitment that fitness and wellness is going to be top of the agenda. And we are being deliberate about it. And I know how challenging it is to do some of these things in your own corner. And it is important sometimes to be in a space where you can be with other people and get inspired by other people. I know what I'm talking about. And I know the challenge of waking up in the morning to go and jog or walk. I know that challenge because I've been doing this for a long time. Sometimes I struggle. But when you see the benefits, and I can assure you, those of you who are not consistent about walking, walk just 5 or 3 days in a week, just for 30 minutes. After 2 weeks, you come back and testify that your body will be feeling totally different. And we all know about the dangers of sitting too much. Many of us, when going to work, we drive, we are seated. The work we do at our offices, we sit throughout. When we get out of the office, we go back into the car seated. When we go back home, we sit in the couch and watch TV seated. When it is time to sleep, we sleep seated. Inactivity is not good for our bodies. And what we call comfort has consequences. Can you know that in the developed countries now, they are advising people to use bicycles to work? And not drive. Instead of using a lift at your place of work, why not use the stairs? Instead of driving to go and buy lunch, why not walk? It is a lifestyle we are talking about. If you live close to the church, don't drive coming to church, walk to church. And walk back. You don't need to drive if you live in my community and you want to go to Price Mart. Walk. Walk and come back. Develop a lifestyle. And remember that we are talking about developing a lifestyle. This is not a one-day thing. But remember, it's not just about preventative, it is about curative, taking medication. I'm begging you, because I've seen it in church, where some people who had strokes could have avoided the strokes that they had because their doctors told them, take medication once a day, take medication twice a day, do it. And we'll continue to pray for you that the medication works for you. Questions and comments? Stewardship of the body.
I have a question.
Please.
Yes.
All right. So we understand that exercise is good for the body, right? However, I have heard so many cases where persons who are fitness gurus, then in other words, they will get up on a regular day, go into their exercise routine, and within half an hour, let's say, give or take, of finishing that routine, they end up having a heart attack and die. Would we now blame that on them not taking care of their bodies as they should, seeing a physician, etc.? Or is it that they are doing too much to the body? It would then mean that you are, or would it then mean that you are an irresponsible steward? Would you be punished by God for this?
Let me quickly answer you by saying that the last time I visited my doctor told me don't run. That's what my doctor told me, don't run, because I'm getting into it, and the age I'm going into now does not allow me to be running the way I was running when I was in my 20s and early 30s. So he told me running is not good for my knees. He told me walk. And I want to say to the people to say, we want to balance up things. And if you looked at my presentation today, is that you should also consult your physician on these things. Actually, what they say is that before you go to the gym, see your doctor. Before you start running and doing all these things, see your doctor. Your doctor will be able to tell you the way your heart functions, this is what you can do. The way your liver functions, this is what you can do. With this condition, this is what you can do. And remember, there is no exercise that is a fit for all, because our bodies function different. So there's preventative here. And remember that some of us are on medication already. So the medication you take also determines the kind of exercises you can do. So if you see someone running on the road, does not mean you should also go running, because your body is different. So it is important, my brothers and sisters, to find a way. And I remember when I just came in Kingston, where I was living in Stonehill area, when each time I went running up the hill, there's a gentleman I met there who always asked me a question, that has your doctor approved this? He always asked me that question. Has your doctor approved this? So I want to say to us that stewardship is a wider spectrum. And remember that we are not taking away the spirituality out of this. Spirituality is part of it, but there are things that we need to do ourselves in order to take care of our bodies. Let me take Anne and then take Michael.
Yes, Rev. I agree with you there, where you say that you should consult your doctor. I consulted with mine today. I went to see my rheumatologist, and he was emphasizing the need for me to exercise. And I was telling him I'd slacken off because I used to walk even twice per week, and I've been doing it. So he was saying, no, you need to. And he was saying to me, if you could get somebody who, you know, is very enthusiastic about exercise and so on to help you along the way, it would be good. And I said, well, I know somebody who runs. And he said, not for you.
Yeah.
Running is not for you, not with your conditions. So you're correct. You need to consult your doctor before you start on any exercise program.
Thank you, Anne. Absolutely. Absolutely. My doctor told me that I can't run, that I need to walk because running is not good for my knees. It is as simple as that. Michael?
Yes, Rev. I support you wholeheartedly in this presentation. But I just want to add to your presentation to say that in doing this, you also need to ensure that you have the right sneakers or footwear, because it can also cause damage to your knees and your back. I am somebody who walks every now and again. Every now and again I fall off, but right now I'm in the fall off mode. But I've learned from early that the sneakers that you wear when you're going to run or walk or put yourself through these kind of exercise can prevent you from having effects down the road on your back or your knees. So I'm just encouraging that anybody who's going to try to start this to ensure that they buy the proper footwear, because that is extremely important when you're going to something like this.
Absolutely. And you know, one thing that we need to know is that we need to know that this is an investment. This is not something that you just jump into and do. And remember, we should not run away from the presentation. The presentation is talking about all these things. So it's not just about exercise, it's also about what we eat. And I want us to take some time to talk about what we eat and not just exercise. Because it doesn't matter how much you exercise, but if you're eating wrongly, you're not going to have the results. So diet and exercise go hand in hand. So what you put on the plate is important, and we need to talk about what we put on our plates this evening. I was reading a book yesterday, and the author of the book said, you cannot put chicken and chips on the plate and ask God to bless it. I was shocked.
Really,
He
Rev?
said, you cannot put chicken and chips on the plate and ask God to bless it.
Really, Rev?
So that chicken
Really?
would have died in vain, Rev? Are you saying
Really?
that chicken died in vain?
That is debate for another day.
Okay. Okay, there are 3 participants who have
All right, so we have Sheila, then we have Vena, and then Eva Marie Francis. So let's start with Sheila. And let's also balance up, what about taking of medication? Because that is another thing. Sheila?
Sheila?
Sheila, kindly unmute and speak. All right, Vena?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I've listened to your presentation, Rev, as it relates to the use of leaves, figuratively and actually, but more so as an explanation of the fact that there is inspiration for how mankind can help in the healing process of our bodies. And so I'm reminding you that I was waiting on a discussion this week about the topical issue of COVID-19 and the vaccination, and whether we are poisoning our body, which is our temple, by taking the vaccines, or whether by not taking it, we are doing a disservice to our body in the face of what is happening around us. So I'm just using this opportunity to remind you that you had promised an answer.
Thank you, Vanna. And I'm sure in my presentation, you've been seeing your answer coming, right?
Yes. I've seen it actually. Yes,
it will come in the affirmative.
Yes.
Yeah, right. All right. So, Marie.
Good night, everyone. Night, Rev. I'm here smiling, you know, because it's a pleasure to know that I'm one of the converted now. And I'm saying all of this because, you know, before January 2021, I would have been one in the room saying, boy, it sounds good. But to actually start is another thing. But I just want to make a connection to what you're saying, the spirituality and the physical, and just how connected they are and intricately linked. You know, Rev, I was just a typical person who had on too much weight for my own good because of child rearing and childbearing and everything that comes with that. And I wouldn't say I was uncomfortable, but I got to a stage one Friday night as I was having a spiritual experience. And I remember I got a message, and the message was about a boot camp. And I just felt an overwhelming push to go. It would have been 6:30 the Saturday morning. No, I've never been to a boot camp. But it was so overwhelming. I knew it was the Spirit of God speaking to me. Rev, I went that Saturday morning to the boot camp. Long and short of it, brothers and sisters, they would know this new Ava if they were to see me, because having been a part of the gym since then, 5 days per week, and having seen the nutritionist, it's a whole new look, and more importantly, a whole new feel. And so I'm one of the great supporters in this room tonight of just the benefits of exercise and proper nutrition, and ultimately being a good steward of the body. Just want to just point out, Rev, that the point of starting is nothing, no one can do it for you, because we've heard it, we've seen it, we know it. It's something that is so internal. It is so personal that to get up and go tomorrow morning, for those who are thinking, you know what, I'm going to start tomorrow, it really has to be that will that comes from within. And like you, I'm encouraging us to try, because the truth is, once you start, now it's October, so I'm way in, it's almost impossible for me to miss a day. But because I've gotten to that point now, but to have started was a struggle, and just want to encourage brothers and sisters tonight to just say start somewhere, it will eventually build up until it's it's a part of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much for that encouragement. And this is why for 2022, we are pushing very hard that fitness and wellness should be part of the program of the church. At least we should have a day designated for us to meet together to encourage each other. You know, you need encouragement to do these things so that we can meet together and encourage each other and do something, because health living is an investment. And I think that as a pastor, I have the responsibility to remind people about these things because I need you in the church. I don't want to be losing members who are not supposed to be going to glory land. I need you so that we can add more to the flock. We want you. We want you to stay around and to stay around in good health. And then you can save with energy and we can accompany each other that way. Sheila, you still have your hand up. If you don't want to speak, let me take Colleen and then Rose. Sister Colleen Murphy.
Hi, good night, everyone. Good night, Rev. Yes, I agree with what you had presented, have presented. And if you have a body that is fit, a fit body, you'll have a fit mind. Once you have a fit mind, it gives you that energy to get things done, to focus and get things done. But I wanted to also say that I had an ankle. They say when you get a sprained ankle, it takes a long time to get better or it never gets better. I had it from since I was 14 years old. And every now and again, it'll bother me. And going to doctors and putting rubs on it and stuff like that, it works for a while and then it comes back. And then someone, just a couple of years ago, someone said to me, get 3 leaves, 3 particular leaves they told me to get, boil them and wrap them around the ankle. And ever since I did that, my ankle doesn't bother me again. So I'm saying that to say that medicine is there for you to use, yes, but there's also as you said, the leaves, the healing in the leaves as well. So I think they work hand in hand.
Thank you so much, Sister Colleen. Rose?
Good evening, everyone. It's what you were saying just now, Rev, about needing us. I really just wanted to zero in on that because sometimes we compartmentalize very effectively. And what these last 4 weeks have done is to help us to connect the dots between the mind, well, that mind, body, spirit connection. And I have had the experience where I don't feel like getting out of bed to go to church. You get out of bed to go to work because you'll be fired or you'll be held accountable, but you're so genuinely tired and you know God is not going to fire you, so to speak, and you just sometimes can't feel the energy. And when you're approached to work in different ministries, you decline politely because you just feel like you can't take one more thing on. And so the connection really is that if you can, it's important to focus on the spirit and the soul, but we also need to work from the outside in, because if we are fit, and I'm speaking to myself because I don't think I'm fit, but if we are fit, then we have that energy and that enthusiasm, not just to get up and go to church, whether online or in person, but to also serve. And when we start to serve, we find that service, when we are in service to God and the church and God's people, then our souls become enriched. And that inevitably, or it should lead to spiritual enrichment. many people leave the church because they don't feel involved, they don't feel engaged. But it's difficult to be actively involved in ministry and not feel engaged. But you have to have the physical drive and health and strength and energy to do it. So I just wanted to make that connection is very clear for me, and I'm hoping it's clear to everyone, because we compartmentalize so well, we can walk away and see this as a lecture on healthy lifestyles. But it's all of life. It's about all of life, and it's very, very importantly about our spiritual life as well.
Thank you so much, Rose. I see
Rumble.
I see Yana and then Gaff. Yana and then Gaff.
All right, my question is for Sister Carleen. She mentioned something about the leaves. If you don't mind sharing what leaves they were, because my mother has a very bad rheumatoid problem, and sometimes the medications don't seem to work. We've been to multiple doctor visits. She has a very big test to do to see what is happening. But, you know, I'm someone that believes in natural remedies, because I believe that, you know, of course, this is a part of the heat. Well, I believe that natural things are the healing of the nation, as the Rastafarians would put it. So I would just love to, you know what leaf that was, if you are willing to share.
Sister Carleen,
right.
you want to share?
I'm trying to remember. One was a soursop leaf, because I remember I had to go to Lindsay to get the other leaves. I'm actually going there tomorrow. Let me try and find out what the 3 leaves were again, but I know one was a soursop leaf. And I know I had to go there to get it. So I will try and find out, and I'll let you know definitely.
There you have it, Yana. Gaff and then Brother Michael.
Okay. Good night, Rev, and everyone. Rev, thank you for this discussion. You know, I've always been wondering why I don't hear much of this kind of thing in the church. But I can also give from my experience, right, that even sometimes God doesn't just work a miracle to give us a healing, but He wants us to make that connection with the physical. I used to be sick with acid reflux, right? And you know, I was quite a bit. Well, I'm still a very spiritual guy, and I'm saying, "Sure, God will just heal this man. Not a problem." I prayed quite a while, right? And you know, I don't want to get that miraculous thing until God started revealing to me several things. First, what was I doing wrong that was causing the acid reflux, right? Now, back then I had a high diet in like sausages, franks, sodium nitrite, right? I mean, sodium nitrite is something that the FDA cancel from their list of approved substances, right? But back then, you know, it was a subtle poison, right? I was there eating, getting sick, right? So God revealed that to me, so I stopped eating it. Then He also revealed to me that eating more fresh foods, green stuff, raw food kind of stuff, will bring healing to the stomach, right? So I did all of that, right? So it took me 3 years, and the disease totally went away, right? But I look at it all the time and I say, man, if God had miraculously healed me in that first year, I would continue eating my good dose of sodium nitrite, you know, and bad eating generally, right? And get sick again, right? So it is important for us to make the connection with the physical things as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Brother Garth. And remember, what we are trying to talk about here is that we are not just handling one sector. If you follow this presentation, so it's not just about exercise. It's about eating health. It's about if you feel sick and you are diagnosed with an illness and a prescription is given, take the medicine. And I want to answer the question for Van today. Is it spiritual to take the vaccine? One funny thing about the vaccine is that I think the vaccine has been politicized. It has its own issues. And I've always told people to say, when we get sick and we are really in need of medication, when the doctor gives you an injection, we don't even ask what the content is in that injection. We don't, because we want to get better. I know the fear that has been there, and I know that for us, people of my color, we know the history of how we've been treated in the past by our colleagues. I think that is the best way. I hope I'm not sounding otherwise. So that is why people of color seem to have a challenge with the vaccine, because they think that it is one way of trying to get on us and stuff like that. But friends, here is the reality. The reality is that the way things stand right now, the vaccine seems to be one of the ways. And I know that many questions are being asked. If I take the vaccine, am I going to take off the mask? No. If I take the vaccine, am I still going to contract the virus? Yes. If I take the vaccine, can I transmit the virus? Yes. But the issue is that research has shown us that those who are vaccinated are less likely to succumb to death, are less likely to be hospitalized. And we all know that our health system is already stressed. Don't you think that by taking the vaccine, number one, you'll be helping the already struggling health system of our country. You'll be helping the frontline workers who've been working very hard over the years. You'll also be helping yourself in case you get the virus, so that you cannot easily succumb to it. And what we are being told is that the highest percentage of those who are admitted right now with the virus are those who have not taken the vaccine. I know that one thing that I'm avoiding tonight is to go into the nitty-gritties of the politics that surround the vaccine. But the truth of the matter is that we have a variety of vaccines now, so you can choose out of the varieties that are there. And as a child of God, before you go to take the vaccine, pray for the vaccine. If we believe that prayer can work, if we believe that prayer can nullify things, and this is what we'll be talking about next week, the spiritual aspect and what prayer is capable of doing, why not speak a prayer to the vaccine, just like we speak prayer for the food before we eat, just like we pray on the road before we get to drive. So one point I want to say to us is that away from the politics of what people have been trying to submit, I think and I feel that it is important that we take the vaccine. Though I want to say that it will be important for all of us to make a cautious decision without being pushed into it. But already COVID has hit us hard, and the vaccine seems to be the way out. So Vanna, yes, the vaccine is one of the ways to demonstrate our stewardship. I wanted someone to talk about the medication, because I know I have met Christians who tell you that, no boy, even if the doctor told me to be taking medication, I feel it in my spirit that I just need to pray. And I remember that I lost a colleague minister myself, and I have to confess on this platform, who was put on the on the hypertension medication, high blood pressure, and he stopped taking medication, and he stopped taking medication. He took the medication, I think, for some time, and I think he felt that, look, the anointing had overtaken him and he needed not to take them. And I'm not saying that that cannot happen. So I'm trying to balance some things this evening. I'm not saying in any way that prayer cannot heal you. No. And we're going to take some time next week to talk about the power of prayer. But also we need to learn to take personal responsibility. He got a stroke, Afterwards, and when we took him to the hospital, the first thing the doctors asked, has he been taking medication? And the answer was no. And it was very clear that if he was taking medication, eating health, exercising, I am sure, almost 60% sure, he will still be preaching today. And my profession also, and I think it will be shocking when you hear a pastor speaking like me, because I know how many people are in bad health in my profession. I know of how many pastors are grappling with lifestyle diseases. I know that. I know of how many pastors don't consider exercise as an activity and I never did it until 2015. And I must confess here that I'd gone to 200 pounds. And since then, I've never been over I think I should be 170 pounds. The last time I checked, I was 171 pounds. And the doctor told me that I'd only increased 1 pound in 4 years. But I've been eating in 4 years. But also I'm saying to us, if you can manage to supplement anything that is good for you, take some added vitamin C. I'm speaking like a doctor today, but I'm just talking about realities because these are things that we grapple with in the church. Find some way. Because there are certain things that we can't get in the food we eat. So if you can supplement, it is good for you. Remember that we need you as a church. Your family needs you. Your spouse needs you if you're married. Your children needs you if you have children. We need each other. Take medication. Let's be together in the preventive aspect of it. Let's do what we can do to prevent some of these things. And come 2022, we want to try our level best as Meadowbrook United Church to find a space where we can encourage each other about health living, health eating, and all these things. Because I know how important it is to be in a group because you get the vibes and the energy and the excitement and the encouragement. So we need that. And I know on this platform, there are people who are into that. So we want to invest in that and try. And I'll be the first one. Michael spoke about something very, very important. If you want to start walking, I'm not saying go and walk tomorrow. Please, I beg you. I don't want anyone to go and have a heart attack and say, Rev sent us to run. Go and see your doctor first. Let your doctor advise you on the reasonable and acceptable exercises you can be doing. If you are on medication, please continue to take your medication. If you are beginning to feel better, let the doctor tell you that you cannot continue on that medication. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be a good steward of your body. And we know that at the end of the day, we can all continue to celebrate God and give him honor and praise because he wants us to be in that space. Any final comments? It's been a long session. And I have to thank you. I have to thank, we went up to 74, I think, at some point. And we had up to 25 people on the YouTube because I'm able to see what is happening on the YouTube as well. So quite a good turnout. And we want to give thanks to all of you. And remember that next week, we want to come and talk about our spirituality, the importance of prayer and fasting. And then for the next 2 weeks, we'll be looking at that. After which I'm going to talk about one topic that I promised you to talk about, what happens when we die. And then after that, we are going to discuss of how the next journey is going to look like. My friends, if I can't see any hands, mine is to thank you for being here and for your support. Brother Jolly.
Okay. Thank you, Rev. On behalf of all of us, I'd just like to say thanks. I think from the responses that you have heard, it is quite clear that your presentation has struck a very important and personal chord to a number of us. A number of us kept silent, didn't have much question, but you know, it does not mean that we did not take seriously that which you have presented. I think it's certainly a situation where we have been looking at our own selves and to see how we fit into this whole equation. We thank you, Rev. Over the past few weeks, you have been able to bring together in a manner that we have a better understanding of the relationship between spirit, soul, and body. And whilst we still have a number of questions which we need to resolve, you have certainly generated amongst us quite a lot of thought, of food for thought, which as Christians, we need to take on board and put into practice. So Reb, we thank you for another engaging and informative presentation. And we look forward to your continued leadership and interesting and informative presentations.